low around 72. Saturday looks the same, and then slight chance of rain Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. We're sitting at 75 right now.
Support comes from Houston Grand Opera, presenting their 25-26 season, including the first ever presentations of Puccini's Il Trittico, Silent Night, and Robert Wilson's fantasy production of Messiah. Season subscriptions and more at hgo.org.
Weather is brought to you by Stewart PC, attorneysforexecutives.com. Freeways looking fine. Now they are loosening up from some earlier incidences and a little lighter on Fridays normally as well. Check out HoustonPublicMedia.org. Download our app as well. News updated all the time, streaming as well. It's KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. Houston Matters starts right now, 9 o'clock. Stick around.
It's day 3 of the federal government shutdown with no apparent end in sight. I'm Craig Cohen. Today on Houston Matters, reaction from Houston area Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Baylor College of Medicine.
Also this hour, we meet the new president of Houston's Rothko Chapel. Abdullah Antepli will share his plans for the area landmark. Also ahead, from a controversial Halloween display in Houston's 2nd Ward to debate over an AI-derived actor to a self-driving car pulled over at a DUI checkpoint, we contemplate the good, the bad, and the ugly of the week's news. Plus, blues rock musician Kenny Wayne Shepherd sets out on a 30th anniversary tour, which is coming to Houston in February. He'll tell us all about it. We'll start with a news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. The Republican-led Senate is voting a 4th time today on dueling partisan stopgap bills to reopen the government. NPR's Claudia Grisaldez reports the bills are expected to fail again, extending the shutdown into next week.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune hopes the repeated votes will pressure Democrats to help the GOP. But if they don't, Thune warns the Trump administration could make good on plans for massive layoffs of federal workers.
Anytime you're in this situation, you have to manage a shutdown. Decisions have to be made about what to prioritize, where you're going to spend money. I expect there are going to be some decisions coming out about that. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Republicans control 53 seats in the Senate, so they need at least 7 Democrats to reach a required 60-vote threshold to overcome a filibuster. But Democrats are demanding an extension of expiring Affordable Care Act subsidies, and Republicans say that will not happen as stopgap measure. Claudia Grisales, NPR News.
Stocks opened higher this morning as the shutdown delayed the monthly jobs report. NPR's Scott Horsley has more.
The jobs report, typically delivered on the first Friday of the month, is one of the government's most closely watched economic indicators. Analysts will have to wait a little longer, though, to find out how many jobs were added or subtracted in September and what happened to the unemployment rate. The workers at the Bureau of Labor Statistics who compile that report have been furloughed until the government shutdown ends. If the congressional stalemate drags on, it could also delay the September inflation report, which is supposed to be published in about 2 weeks. Excitement over artificial intelligence continues to drive the U.S. stock market higher. All the major stock indexes closed at record highs on Thursday. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Large protests continue in countries around the world against Israel's offensive against Hamas in Gaza. In Europe, the biggest protests have been in Italy, where labor unions have called for a national strike over the war in Gaza. NPR's Ruth Sherlock has more from the demonstration in Rome.
People in the crowd here tell me they feel this is a moment to say enough is enough. And it also marks a stark difference in opinion that the public feels compared to Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's position. Meloni heavily criticized the activists on the global Samud flotilla to Gaza, even saying that their actions could complicate a peace deal.
NPR's Ruth Sherlock reporting. Flights at Munich's airport were briefly halted last night after drones were spotted nearby. That makes Germany the latest European country to have to close its airport for nearby drone sightings. Wall Street higher at the opening bell. The Dow is now up 229 points. The Nasdaq is trading flat. The S&P 500 is up 10. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. Officials will continue to look into why a new hotel under construction near Dyken Park suffered an explosion on the top floor yesterday. The blast blew out windows in the corner of the penthouse floor. Fire investigators say it came from a commercial-sized tankless water heater inside of a boiler room. Brent Taylor with Houston Fire describes how the inspection and repair phase will progress.
HFD arson, as well as Public Works permitting, HFD's Life Safety Bureau, who does building inspections, things like that. They're all going to be investigating to determine exactly what happened, how safe this building is going forward, if there are any structural integrity issues and things like that that can get it back towards its construction to completion of.
And we will keep you updated on that right here on News 88.7. Thousands of Fort Bend County voter registrations, including new applications, cancellations, and changes, are still pending. The backlog comes after the company that ran the county's voter registration system abruptly shut down, and the state overhauled its own system. News 88.7's Natalie Weber explains.
Fort Bend County Elections Administrator John Oldham says his office has about 22,000 pending records. That includes new voter registrations, cancellations, and updates such as address changes. Oldham says his office is checking the files for anomalies after seeing issues in other counties.
Instead of updating addresses, it was canceling them. So we're waiting on that.
Oldham says he's optimistic that the county will resolve the backlog by the time early voting begins on October 20th. The deadline to register to vote is Monday. State constitutional amendments will be on the ballot this year. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
And officials are still warning of the threat for fires in the area, with no rain projected in the forecast again today. Forecasters earlier in the week said we may get a 20% shot at some precipitation today, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. A fire burned yesterday right at the Brazoria-Galveston County line. It's not clear how it started, but officials say that there were no reports of controlled burns in the area. No structures were damaged, multiple outlets report, as a result of the blaze. There isn't technically a drought, but officials are still reminding you to use extra caution should you use anything that sparks a fire. For more news, head to our website. That's HoustonPublicMedia.org. I'm Matt Harab, News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Good morning. Coming up this hour, we meet the new head of Houston's Rothko Chapel. Also this week's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and a conversation with blues guitarist Kenny Wayne Shepherd. But first, it is now day 3 of a federal government shutdown. While the U.S. House passed a continuing resolution to fund the government well into November, the U.S. Senate has not been able to get to 60 votes to approve it. The impasse appears to be over whether to extend expiring tax credits that make health insurance cheaper for millions of Americans. Senate Democrats want the extension. Senate Republicans say it's too expensive. Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw represents Texas' 2nd Congressional District, which includes the Woodlands, Atascocita, and other parts of northern and northeastern Greater Houston. He joins us now. Congressman, good morning.
Morning. How you doing?
All right. How are you, sir?
Good, thanks.
What's your position, first of all, on these tax credits? Should they be allowed to expire?
Well, we're talking about something that has nothing to do with the shutdown, first of all. So let's just make that really clear. I mean, Democrats have done a good job of getting you and the media to conflate these two issues. Extending the tax credits is a really complicated policy matter by itself. This was done during COVID, not with Republican support, by the way, but it was done during COVID in an effort to help people out who had all just lost their jobs. This is people who are not below the poverty line. This is people who are, well above 500% of the poverty line. You say it'll decrease premiums if we keep them, but CBO disagrees with you. Only 8% of the premium increase that we're expecting is due to the lapsing of these tax credits. So let's just be really clear about what these tax credits are and what they have to do with the shutdown, which is nothing. So all of a sudden, Democrats pulled out of a hat some random policy issue that they believe in. Okay, fair enough. It's debatable. We can debate it. But it shouldn't have anything to do whether or not your government functions. So they decided to shut down the government over this, and we offered them a clean CR. Hell, it's not even clean. It's actually there's actually a lot of things in that CR, like Dish cuts, for instance, we make sure those don't happen. Dish is disproportionate share hospitals, which is hospitals such as LBJ here in Houston, our Harris Health System. So Democrats are against those kind of things. They're against community health programs. That's also in the CR, making sure those don't go away. Extensions for telehealth and reimbursements. That's also something we make sure don't go away. Democrats are apparently against all of that. Talk about national flood insurance. You can't apply for any national flood insurance right now in the midst of hurricane season. That goes away because of the government shutdown. So let's be really clear about what policies are actually do have to do with the shutdown and which ones don't.
The suggestion has been made that the solution is approval of the continuing resolution as is, and then a separate up or down vote on the healthcare tax credits. Would you support doing that?
Oh, of course. I mean, look, the whole point of a CR is to say, hey, guys, look, we never get to our appropriations on time because it's complicated and we disagree and we need 60 votes in the Senate. So this is the other really issue about this entire thing that's, I think, should irk people. The Democrats immediately try to spin this as a Republican shutdown, okay, forgetting that on September 19th, we as Republicans in the House passed that clean CR, a 7-week temporary stopgap funding bill that just keeps things open, right? So we can keep negotiating appropriations, by the way, and you could add those tax credits into that or not. I don't even think you should. I think that is very much a separate issue. It's a complex, separate issue. It was meant for a temporary emergency. They were never meant to be permanent. If you make them permanent, you're talking about almost $500 billion in costs over the next 10 years. You know, insurance premiums are not going up because the government isn't subsidizing them enough. They're going up because the government subsidizes insurance companies over patients. That's what Obamacare is fundamentally. So I mean, to answer your question simply, yes, I'd support that, an up or down vote on those two things. But you need to keep the government open. You can't hold the entire federal government hostage and all the services that we provide hostage because you're throwing a tantrum over an unrelated policy issue. The Democrats are going to lose this messaging war. I don't know what they think they're doing. This wasn't well thought out. You know, they pulled this out of a hat at the last minute. You know, it's not like they've been talking about this for a long time.
It seems, and again, I'm not going to try and put words in either party's mouth here, but it does seem like the argument has to do at least a little bit with timing, in that open enrollment for the Affordable Care Act marketplace begins on November 1st. Of course, these are due to expire at the end of this year. And the question that's been raised is whether or not there would be enough time for, once CR was approved, an additional up and down vote then, or addressing, as you say, what is a complicated request.
Yeah, I mean, if that's their argument, then all the more reason not to shut down the government. Because all they've done is taken the focus completely off of the policy issue they claim they care about. And it's not a very good policy issue for reasons I've just explained. But if that's what they care about, then why would you put all the focus on the shutdown now? So their tactics have been really terrible. This was not well thought out at all. And they're going to end up caving. They're going to have to cave. Shutdowns are historically very unpopular. And they own this one.
Remind me, were you in office during the last one 5 years ago, or was that just prior to you? No, you were on the board for
there's been a shutdown almost every time. Right?
Yeah,
I'm like, right. They're usually for like a day or two.
Well, you know, I would say
a lot of this is very normal. You know, so it's very normal to have this brinksmanship, and you know, we don't lose a lot of sleep over it, but we usually get it resolved pretty quickly. The really long one you're talking about, no, I was coming into office during that.
Is there a way to do this that would guarantee that a vote would take place in both houses, both on the continuing resolution and then also on before Affordable Care Act open enrollment begins on November 1st? Is there a way that you could, I'm not saying you, but that Republicans could say that to Democrats, that Democrats would trust?
It's a long, we could have an hour-long conversation playing that game out. No, I mean, look, they need to be talking, but Democrats didn't give us enough time. And by the way, Republicans have come out and said many times, Republican leadership has come out and said many times, we will talk to you about this, but like, you can't hold the government hostage over it. It is an unrelated issue to even budgeting. So like it's of course it's possible. I'm just not exactly sure I see what path is there to take. I think Schumer feels he needs to play to his base. Remember, he's got a primary from AOC right now. So it sounds kind of funny, but it is true in New York that, he probably feels that, and he feels like he has to stand up to Trump and Republicans. And oftentimes playing chicken with a shutdown is the way to do it. Unfortunately, the people who pay are, folks in the military, let's say, who, okay, well, they'll get reimbursed in back pay. Yeah, that's true. But, a lot of these lower enlisted folks, they live paycheck to paycheck. And that's true for a lot of federal workers. So it's not good. It's not good optics for them. I don't know why they're doing it.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. We're talking with Houston area Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw. He represents the Texas 2nd Congressional District, and we're discussing the federal government shutdown. You can join our conversation. Call or text 713-440-8870. Email talk@houstonmatters.org. You can also comment on our video stream on Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. And we have a comment there on YouTube from Herlind, who writes, please, Representative Crenshaw, explain to us that there is a law existing that states if the budget deficit is too large, Medicare will be cut. Can you speak to that?
Okay, so what happens when Medicare or Social Security, they operate off of a trust fund. Like when you go to your taxes, you pay a tax called a FICA tax. That's on your federal tax bill. Those are the taxes that go into that trust fund. And when that trust fund runs out of money in about 2033, so you got some time, but it's about 2033. Yes, by law, all benefits automatically get cut. That's what happens. It's not because it's either you raise everybody's taxes really quickly or you automatically cut benefits. But by law, the benefits do get cut. But that's what happens in 2033 when the trust fund runs out. So it has nothing to do with deficits. It has everything to do with that particular trust fund and the solvency of it.
White House Budget Chief Russ Vought and other Trump administration officials have said they view this shutdown as an opportunity to shrink the size of the federal government in line with their agenda. Do you have any sense of which agencies or programs could be affected, not just temporarily, but potentially permanently?
We had a call with Russell Vought on that exact topic, and they're not going to do anything that I think is too extreme at all. I think they're going to be, if they do anything permanent, it's going to be very cautious and very much in line with what they already had planned. So I would not know. I would not expect this massive layoff of federal workers. We don't see that as a way to win against the Democrats. It may annoy them, but in the end, they're not doing it for that reason. So I wouldn't expect anything extreme on that end.
You posted on social media, quote, Democrats shut down the government because they care more about illegals than Americans. Are you saying, in your view, this is really about immigration and not about health care?
No, it's healthcare for illegal immigrants. So the reason we say that is because in their proposal, in their counter proposal, they had about $1.4 trillion in demands. Okay, part of it is those healthcare tax extension credits, and the other is just repealing everything we did in the Working Families Tax Cut Act. Okay, so where we said very specifically and made it more clear in law that a state cannot use loopholes to use federal funding to put into its Medicaid system to then cover illegals. California does this, for instance. I believe Minnesota does this. Every presidential candidate in the primary running in the last election said that they would fund healthcare for illegals. So we're not crazy for believing this is what they want to do. So we made sure in law that was more clear that you could not do that in the last bill that we passed and made into law. They want to repeal that. That's why we say, look, what you're really doing is trying to cover illegal immigrants with taxpayer-funded welfare healthcare. I mean, that's effectively what you're doing and why we make that argument.
Let's say, we know there are going to be more votes in the Senate today, but let's say today and into next week and the week after, we don't see this, as you suggested, that the Democrats will, in your view, ultimately cave. If they don't, What is the path towards some sort of compromise? Is there compromise to be made?
There's always some kind of compromise to be made. It's hard to see what that is right now. I'm not sure the Democrats are not having substantive talks with us. But I think there's enough members in the Senate, Democrat members in the Senate, that are becoming increasingly uncomfortable with the optics here. They know, right? I mean, if you're from a state like Georgia or Arizona, Michigan, they know. They know that the optics aren't good for Democrats. You can get away with this if you're from New York and there's just, there's so few Republicans and independents left that they don't care, or California, but you can't get away with it in a purple swing state. So I think they're going to become increasingly uncomfortable. And as we put more votes up, I think you'll eventually get 60.
In a case like this, where it really is coming down to a question of getting 60 votes in the Senate and the House has already passed its bill, is this one of those circumstances where you and your colleagues on both sides of the aisle kind of shrug your shoulders and say, well, we did our part. There's really nothing much for us to do, but just kind of watch?
Yeah. After we've passed it out of the House, yes, I mean that is basically true. It's that the job is now in the Senate. It's our job to message out the truth, to talk to folks like you and answer questions and tell people the truth about what's going on, because there's a lot of spin out there. But no, I mean there's no more work for us to do in the House. The Senate has different rules. And people don't understand that oftentimes, right? This was one of the arguments Democrats are really trying to make right now. Well, it's obviously Republicans' fault because they have the Senate, the House, and the presidency. Well, like they're acting like they never took a civics class. Maybe they haven't ever taken a civics class. They know you need 60 votes in the Senate, which is a rule in the Senate. It's not in the Constitution. It's just a rule in the Senate that has a long tradition, and it's a good tradition. It forces compromise. But it also, that forcing of compromise also creates situations like this.
Let's take a call. We have Earl on the line from Spring. Earl, what's your question for Congressman Crenshaw?
Yes. Talking about Medicare, not Social Security, but for Medicare. If the budget is so that the deficit goes up by a certain amount, will not Medicare be cut automatically over a period of time?
Yeah, same question as before. The answer is no. The Medicare benefits cut automatically when the trust fund runs insolvent, which is projected to be 2033. And the reason that's going insolvent is because, well, we have an aging population. When Medicare started, our life expectancy was somewhere in the low 60s. So it was actually below retirement age. Now life expectancy is almost 80 years old. We barely raised the retirement age 2 years. You have a lot less workers paying into the system than you used to when it first started. So it's completely a demographics issue, and it has nothing to do with the deficit. It doesn't matter what the deficit is or the debt. I mean, there's debt and there's deficits, two different things. Nothing to do with that at all. It's the trust fund that it operates out of going insolvent in 2033.
Let's see if we can get one more question in. Marcy's in Spring. Marcy, what's your question for Congressman Crenshaw?
Hi, Congressman Crenshaw, you give out awards every year because your mother had cancer, and you give out awards for like innovation in research, medical research. But this administration is cutting off all of this research. And people in Texas, for example, we have $3 billion. We're going to vote on this proposition to take $3 billion out of our general fund to give toward dementia research and Alzheimer's. Aren't you concerned about that? I mean, is every state going to have to do their own research now? I would think your mother would not approve, and I think you approved this.
I'll stop you right there. Don't bring my mother into this. I'll stop you right there. I'm happy to answer your question about NIH, but do not ever tell me what my dead mother that I lost to cancer when I was 10 years old would approve or not approve of. So be respectful. Okay. Yes, I do give out an award every year with my mother's name on it for healthcare innovation. And we're unclear on what the actual cuts to NIH are. First of all, the government can't, the executive branch can't just cut NIH. What they can cut are certain programs that they deem are duplicative or unnecessary. And there's a lot of those out there. In the end, Congress is what appropriates NIH, and there's a very good chance that NIH will be appropriated at the very similar levels that it has been in the past, because most of us are in favor of that. So I would not worry too much about NIH and a lot of the cuts you've been hearing about. And we've asked for Jay Bhattacharya, who's been on my podcast, to come on and give us a little bit more detail on what's really being cut and what isn't, because there's what Democrats' spin is about what's being cut, and they'll say it's the things we need the most, like cancer research and all this, and then you find out that's not really true. But what's happened, what I think the truest thing you could say is that a lot of it's been put on pause and is under review. But to say it's been cut is not accurate because they can't cut it. But a lot has been paused and on review, and it is concerning. But it's part of this. It's yet another reason we need to appropriate and open up the government so we can actually start those negotiations and get actual appropriations bills done.
Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw represents Texas' 2nd Congressional District. Congressman Crenshaw, thank you very much for the time.
Thanks.
Up next, we meet the new head of Houston's Rothko Chapel as Houston Matters continues.
With federal funding cuts, Houston Public Media has lost $2.2 million annually. In response, we have launched the Resiliency Fund, an urgent initiative to protect the programs and services you rely on. That includes PBS Kids, that provides free educational programming to children and families across Greater Houston. Your support of the Resiliency Fund helps keep this vital service accessible to our community. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Politics with Brandon Rottinghouse and Geronimo Cortina. Fridays at 7:30 p.m. on News 88.7, at 8 on TV8, and on your favorite podcast platforms. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Emerson Unitarian, where Houstonians and their children can learn about world religions, tolerance, ethics, and living responsibly. 1900 Bering Drive. More at emersonhouston.org.
We get support from members like you and from Baylor College of Medicine through research and innovation. Baylor continues to redefine what's possible in healthcare and medical discovery.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Since 1971, Houston's Rothko Chapel has served as a contemplative meditative space featuring works of the late artist Mark Rothko. And it's led now by a new president, Abdullah Antepli, who joins us now to talk about his plans for the space. Welcome to Houston Matters. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning to you. Delighted to be here.
You just started in this new role last month after
Correct.
17 years teaching religion and ethics at Duke. So welcome to town. How does Houston compare to Durham, North Carolina?
Thank you very much. Blue Devil Imam, as they call me at Duke University, is trying to be a Houstonian. 4 weeks in the city, 4 weeks on the job, and I'm truly loving it. The welcome has been just nothing but overwhelming. It feels more than 4 weeks, but it's literally has only been 4 weeks yet.
It sounds like you had a good gig at Duke. So what led you to come here to Houston and to lead the Rothko Chapel?
Thank you. I was very happy. Nothing was pushing me out of Duke University. I had a wonderful career there. So set of dreams, opportunities, and set of incredibly deep concerns led me to this position at the Rothko Chapel. Rothko Chapel seems to be at a very critical historical intersection of our political discourse, our cultural discourse, our social fabric, our democracy. More and more, Americans are incapable of disagreeing constructively. Our ideological, political polarization is in historical levels, and there are not many good places like Rothko Chapel as a convening space invites people to slow down, helps them to center around what's important, what's their priorities, and are there other higher, superior values involved where we can put some of our differences aside. I watched your conversation with Congressman Crenshaw. It's very clear. We are increasingly incapable of disagreeing constructively. We are disagreeing as we hold each other's throats instead of holding each other's hands.
A lot of Houstonians think of Rothko Chapel as a meditative space, as a space for quiet, for solitude, for a place to sit and think.
Right.
Can it be that and also a convening space for what it sounds like you want to have conversations, bringing people together? How do you balance those two goals?
These are not mutually exclusive at all, Craig. And it's in so many ways that slowing down is an essential element for escalated, high-tension political and ideological environment. People in the heat of arguments, high emotions, they don't always know what's more important. They are not always as thoughtful. They are not always as generous, as charitable. So, what a successful coach always says, just receive the ball on your chest, slow it down, think for a moment, and then play, and then strategize, and then look for your strike, etc. I think we are going way too fast. We are turning our strategic or policy disagreements so quickly into moral disagreements and drawing so quickly moral red lines to large segments of American society so quickly that slowing down, that essential mission of Rothko Chapel is not only mutually exclusive, but it's essential for us to have these kind of constructive conversations.
Despite the name, Rothko Chapel is not a church.
It's not.
Do you see it as maybe both a benefit and sometimes a liability that the word chapel's in the name?
It is a double-edged sword for sure. I think it is not a traditional chapel. It doesn't belong to any religion or denomination. There are no religious services happen there regularly. As you beautifully summarized, it's a convening space for meditation, contemplation, for introspective internal journey. But it is religion-friendly. The founders, the Menil family, this is one of many gifts that they contributed to Houston and the United States and humanity at large. They were incredibly committed to make this space where high-level, impactful cross-faith, cross-religious, cross-cultural engagements take place. In a way, art on the backdrop, making this a convening space, it was inviting different traditions, people of different faith traditions or no faith tradition, to use Rothko Chapel's incredibly powerful, impactful energy to have successful and rich cross-faith and cross-cultural engagements.
When you talk about using the Rothko Chapel as more of a convening space, what kinds of conversations are we talking about?
We are talking about spiritual and social justice-related conversations that affects our individual and collective lives. First of all, when people ask me on an elevator pitch what Rothko Chapel is, I really hope your viewers will consider visiting us if they haven't already. It is an EV charging station for emotional vehicles, for our emotional and spiritual batteries to be charged. First, we have to be individually healthy, our mind, our soul. And that's what Rothko Chapel offers for individual recharging, rejuvenation as much as possible. If you are living in Houston, especially if you are living within the Loop, it is incredibly missed opportunity for you not to visit us once a week. Just sit down, reflect, because this place, I've been receiving dozens of emails from people around the world. Their lives have meaningfully changed after visiting Rothko and spending some time in the chapel meditating. So this is an individual. But for the collective sense, is spirituality, social justice, and art could be a vehicle, could be an element, could be a incubating process for having constructive conversations, for lowering and de-escalating the political and partisan polarization. Could we learn, without lowering our moral commitments, moral convictions, to disagree more constructively between red America and blue America, between Republicans and Democrats, between pro-Palestinians and pro-Israelis? Any kind of issue or policy that is dividing us, could we take this impactful, transforming experience of Rothko Chapel and turn it into an educational product and model and exemplify constructive disagreement to the rest of the society?
Abdullah Antepli is the new president of Houston's Rothko Chapel. Thanks so much for talking with us.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Just ahead, from a controversial Halloween display to an actor of sorts being condemned by an actors union. We discuss intrigues in the news on this week's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly as Houston Matters continues.
Federal funding for public media has been cut. In response, we're creating Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. Donations made toward the fund will directly counter the loss of the $2.2 million in federal funds that were cut annually and strengthen our station's foundation to provide our services into the future. Contributing to this fund is easy and quick and makes all the difference to our station. Help build the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Toad and other adventures in the wild.
Sunday afternoon at 2.
Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Trinity University in San Antonio, where students connect with research, internships, and the city's cultural and professional opportunities so that learning extends beyond the classroom. More at trinity.edu.
A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Jack Young, head of the University of Houston's Professional Actor Training Program, Raul Ramos, associate professor of history at UH, and Joy Sewing, news columnist for the Houston Chronicle. Jack, Raul, Joy, welcome to Houston Matters.
Hi, good morning, Craig.
Panel, a Halloween display in Houston's second ward has been stirring controversy for the last week. As Houston Public Media's Michael Adkinson reports, it's raised quite the scuttlebutt on the socials, sparking debate about immigration, free speech, and political violence. It features two masked mannequins wearing red hats with zip ties and envelopes labeled Epstein in their pockets, hanging from gallows, while another mannequin in a poncho stands next to them and beneath a Mexican flag. The display is just part of the many Halloween decorations put up by Houstonian Mark Rodriguez outside his home. Some are convinced the hanging mannequins are supposed to be ICE agents. Rodriguez denies that. He also says he's received some threats on social media, but that there's law enforcement all over his neighborhood, so if anybody tries anything, well, hopefully the cops are there to pick them up. A Houston resident's Halloween display is, we'll say, political. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Raul Ramos, start us off.
Well, you're starting with me?
Sure.
Look, I'll start by saying it's ugly. It's Halloween. It's meant to be ugly, right? This is a time. Halloween is when we talk about being terrified. I feel that this connects with the idea of terror in so many ways, and the terror from the past and the terror in the present. I'll start by saying there's a clear reference to lynching here that I don't think is mistakable. It's and in the history of lynchings were meant to terrorize the population. They were public for a reason, and they were targeted at black and brown populations. Over 500 Mexican people were lynched in the American Southwest, and over 230 in the history of Texas. So I teach Texas history. I'm aware of that. I feel like we need to talk about that when it comes up. I'll also say that people are being terrorized now, and I think that's the message that I see is, look, there's terror all around us. We need to acknowledge that.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly, Joy Sewing.
I think I would totally agree. When you see something like this and you see the lynching aspect, it screams, this is a deplorable act of violence. This is more than just free speech. This is saying, a reign, almost like a reign of terror in a way.
I thought of Robespierre at that point.
Absolutely, and I don't know if anyone has seen The Handmaid's Tale, but lynching is very much a part of the theme of that series. And when you see that, you know that it has more. It's more than just horror. This is hate. This is extreme violence, and it's ugly.
Okay, good, bad, or ugly, Jack Young.
Yeah, I'll ride the wave with these folks, and I'll stand up for this gentleman putting things up in his yard, and the fact that it is inspiring conversation. I think all the conversations can work as long as whatever your response is ends 6 inches short of my nose, I think is one of the popular ideas about it. The fact that we're talking is, I think, part of his agenda. And his interest in letting other folks interpret it as they will is all part of the artistic effort. So I guess that's a nice Sunday full of good, bad, and ugly. So chocolate, vanilla, strawberry as a mix there.
We don't think it's so much as Neapolitan as the term we use is gadly.
Yeah.
If it's good, it's bad, it's ugly,
yeah.
it's gadly.
So, yeah, and if his interest is for folks to start talking, he's done well.
Panel, it's a little unusual for SAG-AFTRA to condemn an actor. After all, the union represents them. But Tilly Norwood is not your typical actor. Technically, Norwood is not an actor at all. She, or it, I'm not sure how to handle this one, is AI. And creator Elena von der Velgen of Particle 6 Productions recently claimed multiple talent agents want to sign Norwood, who, or which, again, I'm not sure about the syntax, has appeared in videos on Instagram, can technically perform monologues, and is in many ways convincingly human-looking, sounding, and behaving. The Acting Guild in a statement says creativity is and should remain human-centered, and that it is, quote, opposed to the replacement of human performers by synthetics. Von der Velden argues Norwood is not a replacement for a human being, but a creative work, a piece of art. She compares Norwood to animation, puppetry, and CGI. When shown Norwood during a podcast interview with Variety, very real and very human actor Emily Blunt replied, "Good Lord, we're screwed. That is really, really scary. Come on, agencies, don't do that. Please stop." The next big movie star could be an AI avatar. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Guess where I'm starting. Jack Young.
Well, I mean, on a certain level, I certainly understand our creative friends at Particle 6 doing it. My real concern is I'm worried from my position here at Good, Bad, and Ugly, because this could turn into Space Ghost Coast to Coast, flipped over. And, Craig would be the live person, but then they're going to turn me into some avatar or something.
How do you know I'm not AI? Do you really know?
I think I could put my hand through Jack right now.
I stopped seeing being a human being. Yeah, it's coming. It's going to come. I don't think Miss Blunt has to worry too much about it. Her talents and skills are going to thrive no matter what. So, and I watched the quick video of all the CGI-generated people being so excited about Tilly, and there's a sort of chalky taste in my mouth after I watch those people. Watch those images, because they're not people.
Right.
And so there is a kind of strange film about it. Maybe eventually folks will find it appealing. There will be a day down the line where we will point to Flo from her 20-some years of doing progressive and saying, that actually was a human being. 30 years doing the same role in the same kind of costume and hair and makeup and all that. But it's coming, so it will work. Like everything else with technology, the top folks will always do fine.
Do you see a distinction between this and CG characters that have appeared in films, whether we're talking about your Golems or General Tarkin showing up in a Star Wars prequel, even though Peter Cushing died years ago?
Or Roger Rabbit, which was this giant innovation we thought that was really cool, that there's an animated rabbit running around with live people before. And so isn't this cool? Well, yeah, I suppose. It will all get mixed together. There's still people behind it. It may not be the same set of people, but it'll be people.
Okay, good, bad, or ugly, Raul.
I have to say that I immediately thought of my childhood, which was Max Headroom. Remember from MTV?
Sure.
The VJ on MTV who introduced all the videos. And it was a sort of novelty there. And it was clearly, that wasn't what we would think of as AI. It was just sort of splicing and,
animation
with some voice.
With actor Matt Frewer, actually.
Oh, is that who it was?
Yeah.
And look, there was one part of this that it sort of drew me to, which was how we're thinking of the products of AI, in this case, recreations of people, as humans. I mean, if you're being represented, who are you actually representing? And so it's the who part that I'm sort of interested in. And I mean, we are in this gray area right now of robot rights, I guess. There was, been a couple of articles. My kids introduced me to the term clanker, which was a sort of a derogatory term towards robots. And so now there's clanker rights movements and things like that. So I'm not sure what it is for CGI. It's for the animated AI. It could be pixel. I don't know what the insult is that you could call someone.
All right, good, bad, or ugly, Joy.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn because, I watched Avatar and I remember seeing that movie and thinking, oh, that's really interesting and it's kind of cool. But when you talk about having someone star in a movie, well, not someone, there you go. That is AI, I think the question is are they representing that AI as a person, and do they compete in the categories of best actor or actress like a regular person? Now, there is, I don't know if you all heard, there's an R&B star who just got a $3 million contract, and she's completely AI. She was created by a Mississippi poet, and she is like wowing the whole R&B music area. And I just think, wow, what happens to the people who actually have the talent? Well, what happens to that?
Yeah,
what happens to them?
There's still a poet behind it, though.
That is true. But again, this AI character who is not real and is beautiful, and it's I guess it's where we are, but I'm concerned about where we're going.
I have 2 words for you all: Milli Vanilli.
Hey!
I need to move on here. Okay. Panel, it's a scenario we have been anticipating could be an issue ever since self-driving cars came along. Who gets the ticket when one of them is pulled over? And it turns out in Northern California anyway, nobody. San Bruno Police Department officers last weekend were conducting a DUI operation. Yes, a DUI checkpoint. Hang in there. When a car made an illegal U-turn right in front of them. So they pulled it over and, of course, found no driver. It was a Waymo taxi. As the AP's Janie Haar reported Tuesday, officers declined to write a ticket because, as a department social media post explained, their citation books don't have a box for robot. Officers did contact the company to report what they called a glitch. A lot of human drivers weren't too happy, though, that the company got away without a ticket. But as a department officer explained, under current procedures, police can only ticket a human driver or operator for a moving violation. If it was a parking ticket, they could have left it on the windshield. The LA Times reports that next year a new state law will allow police to report moving violations to the DMV, and that could result in penalties for companies like Waymo. All right, a self-driving car would seem gets off with a warning. I don't know if it had to walk a line or recite the alphabet backwards, but is this good, bad, or ugly, Joy?
I think it's kind of bad. One, I'm concerned of how does a driverless car make an illegal U-turn? Aren't they supposed to be it's supposed to be a better form of driving?
That's the glitch, yes.
And 2, if I have to pay a ticket, surely somebody behind that car has to pay a ticket. That's what all I have to say about that.
All right. Jack?
Amen. The robot overlords are going to have to be checked somehow. So they don't get off scot-free. No way. And there's some coder somewhere. It's going to come out of that person's check.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Raul?
Absolutely. It's bad. What a clanker. I think that's that was what I thought. Look, it's one of my pet peeves. It's this idea that either AI or these, whether it's the image that's created by AI or the car that's being driven by AI, it's making choices, but it's making choices within preset parameters that programmers wrote. Ultimately, it's not real intelligence. It's the artificial part of artificial intelligence, and that's squarely on the company and the entire operation that they're running.
Yep.
And we can't, think that there's some being behind that.
Absolutely.
Well, and you don't get a pass. Oh, you only get a 93 on that test. So the 7 points is actually you just ran over somebody.
What I'm waiting for, what I think will eventually happen here, is that there will be an AI driver in a driverless car that mows down a Halloween display that was courting controversy, and it'll all come together and no one will be blamed.
And that's your, what did you call that before? Good, bad, ugly. Good.
Oh, Gadley.
Yeah, that is your
Gadley.
Ultimate Gadley.
What a Gadley outcome.
Gadley.
Yes.
You're wishing this into existence, Craig.
It's going to happen.
That's what
like
AI
so
does.
Many
It takes your wishes as it makes them real.
Jack Young is a professor of theater and head of the University of Houston's Professional Actor Training Program. Raul Ramos is an associate professor of history at UH. Joy Sewing is a news columnist with the Houston Chronicle. Jack, Raul, Joy, thank you very much.
Have a good
weekend.
Hello, I'm Nikki Beatty.
Hello, I'm Josh Adams, General Manager of Houston Public Media. This station just lost $2.2 million in federal support annually. To keep our station strong, we've launched the Resiliency Fund, powered by community members just like you. Your support will help bridge the funding gap and ensure these programs remain free and accessible to everyone. If public media and this station matter to you, now is the time to act. Support the Resiliency Fund today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Great Performances presents The Magic of Grace Bumbry at 8:30 and American Masters at 9:30. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is made possible in part by Ellen Binninghoven and Dr. Michael Schaefer, and with gifts from listeners like you.
30 years ago, a teenage guitarist from Shreveport, Louisiana, shook up the blues rock world with his debut album, Ledbetter Heights. A little deja voodoo from Kenny Wayne Shepherd's album Ledbetter Heights. It went platinum within a year, which was virtually unheard of. 3 decades later, Shepherd's marking the milestone with a 30th anniversary tour, including a stop at Houston's House of Blues in February. Tickets for that concert go on sale this morning. And he's with us now. Kenny, welcome back to Houston Matters. Good morning.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
All right, and how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm looking forward to this tour and this release of this new version of the Ledbetter Heights album that we recently recorded in celebration of the 30-year anniversary. And so there's lots of exciting things on the books for 2026.
You've been making these plans to perform the album front to back for the first time on this tour alongside some other fan favorites that you'll perform. It's a little unusual, isn't it, to perform an entire album straight through like that at concerts?
Yeah. Yes, we've never performed this entire record live, even when it first came out. So this is a first for us. But, we did a similar thing a couple of years ago, celebrating the 25th anniversary of my second album, Trouble Is, and we did a tour, and it was incredibly well received by our fans. And since this was the, my very first debut album, that the record that introduced me to the world, we thought it would be a really special event to do something similar for this. So, we're going to do the whole album from start to finish, but obviously playing one record is not, enough music for an entire live concert. So what we do is we do the whole record, then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back out and do a whole nother set of music. So it'll be a full evening of great music and fun for the fans.
Music, like a lot of things, tends to mark a time and a place and a point of view. As you revisit this album today, what stands out to you about, who you were then compared to who you are now as a musician?
Well, it does bring up a lot of memories. When we were in the studio recording this new version of this record, so many memories came flooding back. I was 17 years old. I was in the last 3 months of my senior year in high school. I was driving up to Memphis every weekend to make this record. And, it just brought back so many vivid memories of being in the studio, making this record, like just not knowing what to expect, just, trying to trust my gut and make the music that I felt inspired to make. And really the biggest thing that it brought up was when you're finished recording it and you hand it over to the record company and you're finally like, okay, here it is. And then from that point, you're like, okay, what's going to happen now? It's like this really interesting feeling of like, wow, you really have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea if the public is going to react to it, if the record company is going to be able to do anything with it. There's so many things that are out of your control, but I just had trust and faith. And, here we are 30 years later.
Let's listen to a bit of another track from Ledbetter Heights. This is Born with a Broken Heart. Born with a Broken Heart from Ledbetter Heights by my guest Kenny Wayne Shepherd. He's performing the full album as part of a 30th anniversary tour, which will play Houston's House of Blues February 21st. Tickets go on sale today. What emotions or memories come rushing back when you hear that now?
Well, that particular song is a tribute to all of my musical heroes that have been taken from us, earlier than we wanted, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, for example, who literally lit the fire inside of me to want to pick up the guitar and try and play it with this passion and intensity that I saw him play it with. Jimi Hendrix, I mean, the list goes on, but that song is a tribute to artists like that inspired me to become the artist that I am. And, I was taught by all of the people that I looked up to that you give credit where credit is due. And none of us have invented any of this stuff. We were all inspired by somebody who came before us. And that song it serves that purpose.
Noah Hunt has been the lead singer for your band since 1998, I think. And a lot of your fans see you and your music intrinsically linked with Hunt's vocals. Is this the first opportunity for him to perform your songs from this album?
Well, we've done a few songs, like Deja Voodoo was the first song released. So that was my first single, went to number 5 on the rock charts. It's literally the song that introduced my band to the world. So we've played that song for many years on and off in the show. So Noah's sung some of these songs before, and he's familiar with the album, obviously, even though he didn't join us until the second record. But this is going to be a great opportunity for so many fans to hear this album with him singing on it, because we recorded a brand new version of this record. Some of the songs we reimagined a little bit. So, we gave them a slightly different treatment in the studio. But the most obvious difference, besides the fact that it's 30 years later, is that Noah's singing the songs on this version of the record. And so there's a lot of fans over the years that have told me they wonder what that record would have sounded like with him singing on it. So we're going to deliver that to them as part of this tour and part of this anniversary celebration. And I think they're going to be happy with it, and Noah's been such an integral part of my sound, even as I have moved towards singing more lead vocals. Now we kind of share the lead vocal responsibilities in the band. But, I think it's a great opportunity for so many fans who wondered what this record would sound like if he was in the band back then. They're going to finally get to hear that.
Houston's been a fairly regular stop for you on past tours. What are your impressions of Houston? What do you think about each time you come to town here?
Well, I love Houston. I mean, I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. In the beginning of my career, when not many people knew who I was and I was just starting to do gigs, I mean, I basically played shows in Louisiana and Texas. We came down to Houston and Austin and Dallas and San Antonio. And, so my memories go way back to my early teenage years when I first formed my band, and the support that I got. I think the first time I played in Houston, I was opening up for Doyle Bramhall Sr. at a bar. I can't remember the name of it, but it's been interesting watching the progression over the years as my career has taken off, and all the different places, different venues in Houston and in the area that we've played over the years, from opening up to Van Halen. I purchased one of my favorite vintage guitars at the Guitar Center in Houston on that tour back in the 90s. The House of Blues we played many times. I mean, there's several different venues that we've played, and our fans continue to come out and show up. This particular show, we had a pre-sale happen a day or two ago, and I checked the seating chart, and most of the tickets are gone. So if you want to come see this show, you got to hurry up and grab your tickets, because our fans in the Houston area are really loyal, and they really show us their love and support, and they show up at the shows. So we appreciate them.
Blues rock musician Kenny Wayne Shepherd celebrates the 30th anniversary of his debut album Ledbetter Heights with the Ledbetter Heights 30th Anniversary Tour, which stops at Houston's House of Blues on Saturday, February 21st. As he just alluded to, tickets are on sale starting today. Kenny, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And that will do it for today's show. The Houston Matters team includes Michael Haggerty, Joshua Zinn, Brenda Valdivia, Mincho Jacob, and Laura Walker. Jared Carroll's our technical director. Michael will fill in for me on Monday and Tuesday next week. On Monday's show, he will lead you through another round of Houstonian pet peeves. Get ready to grumble about whatever small annoyances make your life here in Greater Houston a little less than it could be. You can join the Community Moan session live Monday morning, or email your peeves to us at talk@houstonmatters.org. I'm Craig Cohen. I'll be back on Wednesday. Join Michael Haggerty Monday for those and other Houston Matters.
support comes from DeCamera, presenting the Jazz Series.